Hey, Life Group leaders. My name is Dave Obwald. I'm the Southeast Campus pastor. Excited to be here with you, sharing a little bit about another coaching strategy for you in your life groups. The idea here is we're going to talk about conflict. And I'm passionate about this, not because I'm great at it, but because I've seen in my own life how God is desiring to transform not just little pieces of my life, but every area. And when he talks about us being disciples of His, that means that even in conflict, we have this opportunity to glorify Him. And so what I want to do in this short video is just be able to hopefully change and give you a perspective on conflict that maybe you haven't had before when you think about your life group, or when you think about your home life, or your friends, or school, or whatever it may be, because it permeates everything that we do. So the first thing I'd love you to do is just think of a conflict in your mind as I'm talking, because it's going to be more helpful for you to have a frame of reference as I'm talking through a few points. So get that in your head. Could be current, could be past, but think about a conflict. Then what I want you to think about is just what are the emotions, the words that come to your mind when you think about conflict. And inevitably, as we do that, what comes to mind are mostly negative concepts. They're mostly things like strife and pain and betrayal and misunderstanding and distance and loss of friendship, or any of those ideas. And what I think God is trying to do for us through the scriptures and through as He reveals Himself to us is He's always trying to take us from a place of seeing things as destructive, seeing things as always leading towards death and decay. And He's going, but I want to redeem those things. Ephesians 4 talks about this idea of putting on the new self. And so part of putting on the new self is even viewing conflict in a new way, realizing that as much as those negative things are present, there's an opportunity in conflict as well. There's an opportunity for three specific things that I'd love you to keep in mind. You have an opportunity in every conflict to glorify God. Often God is most glorified when we're trusting Him in the hardest things in our life. And conflict, whether it's in a life group or in your home or with family members, whatever it may be, is one of the hardest areas to actually trust God in. To act in faith and living out His life-giving way of doing things versus what is our own selfish nature and desiring to win or to get a victory or just to be heard and not to understand. So you have an opportunity to glorify God. Second thing is you have an opportunity to serve another person. God is always talking about in the scriptures, and Jesus models for us that He came to serve, not to be served. We and like are called to do the same thing. And so you have an opportunity with this person, even that you're in the most strife and conflict with, to serve them, to serve another. And then the third opportunity is to grow to be more like Christ. God often uses the trials in our lives the most. James talks about it. Peter talks about it. He says, be thankful for trials, because God uses these moments to instill in us character and hope and different things that if we weren't in the moment of trial, we wouldn't have to face about ourselves and have to learn about this other person that we're with. So God uses these times. So I'd love for you to get this mindset that anytime it shows up in your life group, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to do this and to see God move in these ways. The second thing I'd love for you to think about is that each of us have a tendency. And we have a tendency in our flesh to respond to conflict in a certain way. And you're either going to be on one of the extremes. And ideally, God wants us to be people that can balance truth and grace at the same time. That would be what He would call being a peacemaker. And there's multiple ways and strategies that plays out in a given moment, but that's His calling for us. But on a bad day, we're either what we would call peace fakers, which are people that want peace at all costs. They're often seen as very nice people, but often they're avoiding dealing with the things that often need to be dealt with for there to be true peace, for there to be true wholeness in relationship. Or on the other extreme, there tend to be what we would be called peace breakers, which are people that they're going to deal with the issue and it's going to come up and I'm going to wrestle it through with you, but I may not do it in a very grace-filled way. I may not do it in a way that is going to bring us closer in relationship and says we're on the same team. I'm going to do it in a way that I want to win, and it's competitive by nature. So I'd love for you to think about you on a bad day. On a bad day, I'm a peace faker. I'm really nice, but often I'm not really dealing with the things I need to deal with in a conflict. And then kind of from there, what I'd love us to deal with and think about too is that in a conflict, what you're really trying to do in a life group or whenever it comes up is you're wanting to make sure that you don't make it about the person. You want to separate the problem from the person. It's an issue, right? And you always want to be soft on the individual and you want to see you and that other individual working together as a team to solve a problem that's outside of yourselves. It's not necessarily your fault, it's not necessarily their fault, and they often see the situation from a whole different lens than you do. But your goal together is to try to get this person on the team with you, dealing with this issue in a way that says, you know what, let's be honest about it, let's recognize it, let's apologize and make sure that we have grace filled in our relationship. And now let's think about the future together and how can we think through this in a new way, in a way that honors God, in a way that glorifies Him, where we're serving one another and growing together. So for any relationship, for you to see the problem is the problem and the person as your teammate is a huge concept, rather than starting to see the person as the enemy, which is what we naturally start to do. So I'm going to give you some things. Your coach is going to have some more resources to talk through this idea of conflict with you. You're going to see it in your life group. And so I'd love for you to think through instances where you've seen little patterns of people feeling blocked with what they have as an expectation, little skirmishes, because undealt with, conflict will divide people. Undealt with, conflict will change the nature of your life group. It'll change the nature of your home with your wife, your kids, whatever it may be. And so God asks us not to avoid, but to enter in as peacemakers. And so our hope for you is to continue to walk with each other as we grow in that as disciples of Christ. So hopefully this is helpful. Again, follow up with your coach and have a good discussion around that. They're going to have some questions to ask you, and hopefully this was helpful. We'll see you.